One.
Вітаю шановних колег та всіх тих,
Greetings, dear colleagues, and all those who are watching us online. Today, on December 6th of 2024, the advisory group of experts has gathered to sum up the results of the stage of assessing the level of competence of candidates for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, who are participating in the competitive selection for one vacant position according to the quota of the Congress of Judges of Ukraine. Right now, all 6 members of the AGE are present at the meeting. Secretary of the AGE, Ms. Maureen O'Connor, member of the AGE, Ms. Hanna Sukhotska, members of the AGE, Mr. Yaroslav Romanyuk, Mr. Vasyl Shakun, Mr. Aleš Zalar, and I, Chair of the AGE, Oksana Vasilchenko. Also at the meeting, we have 4 deputy members of the AGE present, Mr. Thomas Griffith, Mr. Marek Zubik, Mr. Volodymyr Kuzmenko, and Mr. Vitaly Makhinchuk. We have the quorum, so I'm announcing our meeting duly authorized and open. I would like to remind you that all official meetings of the AGE are broadcast live on the official resources of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine and at pages of the advisory group of experts. And now I'm passing the floor to the Secretary of the AGE, Ms. Maureen O'Connor, to announce the purpose and the preliminary agenda of our today's meeting. Ms. Maureen, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Greetings, dear colleagues, and greetings to the public. We gathered today to consider a number of issues related to the stage of assessing the professional level of candidates for the position of Judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, according to the quota of the Congress of Judges of Ukraine. Let me briefly remind you that a total of 3 candidates made it to this stage of the evaluation. They have successfully passed the assessment of their compliance with the level of high moral qualities. The advisory group of experts collected and researched a significant array of materials regarding these candidates, and on November 22nd, conducted a written assessment and received the candidates' answers to written questions on constitutional issues. All members of the advisory group have carefully studied the answers of the candidates for their evaluation according to our methodology. At the same time, in accordance with the methodology of the advisory group of experts, within 15 days after the completion of the written evaluation of all candidates, the advisory group decides on the need for additional interviews. So now the advisory group of experts has to decide whether there is a need to conduct additional interviews as part of the assessing the level of commendability of candidates in the field of law. However, if the advisory group decides that there is no need to conduct additional interviews, it is likely that the advisory group of experts can complete the evaluation of the candidates' competence and sum up the results at this stage. Therefore, I suggest to my dear colleagues to include the following issues in the agenda of today's meeting. First, a decision on conducting additional interviews to assess the level of competence in the field of the candidates for the position of Judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. And number 2, on assessing the compliance of candidates for the position of Judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the field of law, and also any miscellaneous considerations. Colleagues, do you have any suggestions or comments on the agenda? If there are no comments and suggestions, I propose to put to the voiced issues of the agenda to a vote for approval. Those who are for the agenda as outlined, would you please raise your hand? Thank you. Is anyone against? Seeing all approved, the proposed agenda of the meeting of the advisory group is taken unanimously and approved.
Дякую, пані секретарю.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. Colleagues, I suggest to move to the first item on the agenda, and in particular, on adoption of the decision on conducting additional interviews to assess the level of competence in the field of law of candidates for the position of judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. So, as the Madam Secretary has informed us, the AGE has collected and processed all necessary information to assess the level of competence of the candidates, as well as conducted a written assessment of the candidates on constitutional issues. In general, it can be stated that the accumulated information regarding candidates' compliance with the criterion of recognized level of competence in the sphere of law is enough for the advisory or group of experts to complete this stage of evaluation without conducting additional interviews. Dear colleagues, please express your opinion on this matter.
Дозвольте, пані голово.
Let me, Mr. Chair. Yes, please.
Дякую, пані голово.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Шановні колеги,
Hello,
вітаю
dear
всіх
colleagues.
експерта
Hello, all the
засідання.
viewers of our broadcast.
Дорадча група експертів
The advisory group of experts has really comprehensively analyzed the issue of the candidate's competence, in particular with the help of candidates' written answers, so rather difficult tasks on constitutional issues. These tasks make it possible to determine the level of competence in the sphere of law, which is required from potential judges of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, and the ability of the candidates to resolve similar constitutional problems in the future. Taking all of this into account, I support our chair, Ms. Vasilchenko, that there is no objective need to conduct additional interviews. Thank you. Dear colleagues, maybe some of us would like to add. Yes, Ms. Hanna, please.
Yes, dear colleagues and the public, I also have the opinion that the advisory group of experts can summarize the phase of assessing the competence of the candidates without further interviews with them. We have thoroughly processed the professional profiles of the candidates and have enough data to make a decision on whether the candidates meet the recognized level of competence in the field of law. Thank you. So I share also opinion of Madam President.
Дякую, пані Ганна.
Thank you, Ms. Hanna. Colleagues, do you have any other opinions regarding this item on the agenda? Since there are no other suggestions, I would like to emphasize that we are unanimous in our approaches and interpretation of the situation that we have, and I believe that AGE has no objective need for additional measures to assess the competence of the candidate. So, colleagues, we have discussed this issue of the agenda, and now I suggest to put the proposal to vote not to conduct additional interviews with the candidates. Dear colleagues, who is for this decision? Please vote.
Дякую. Я бачу
Thank you.
6
I see
за,
6
проти немає.
votes yes
Таким
for.
чином, рішення прийнято
So the
одноголосно.
decision has been taken unanimously. We have decided not to conduct additional interviews to assess the level of competence in the sphere of law of candidates for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. Dear colleagues, let's move on to the second item on our agenda.
Другим питання порядку
The
денного.
second item on our agenda is that we have decided
Оцінювання рівня
that the evaluation of the candidate's competence level will be completed without the conduct of additional interviews. So, we have reached the conclusion that we have all the grounds and possibilities to take a decision regarding assessment of the candidate's compliance with the criterion of recognized level of competence in the sphere of law. Colleagues, please express your opinions. Do we have all the grounds to take this decision regarding compliance or non-compliance with the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law? Please, who would like to say something?
Yes, Oksana,
Дякую, пан Алеш.
thank you.
Yes, Mr.
for
Alish,
asking
please.
us. Thank you. Dear colleagues and everybody who watches us online, I support the proposal. I think it's absolutely correct suggestion. And I would like to emphasize that the advisory group of experts has a sufficient amount of information in order to make a decision on the competence of each candidate. So I suggest that we proceed as our chairperson suggested. Thanks, Oksana.
Дякую, пані Алеш. Можливо,
Thank you,
ще
Mr. Alish. Maybe there are some other members of the EGE that would like to express their position.
Василь Іванович, ваша яка
Василь,
позиція з цього?
What do you think about this issue? Dear colleagues, we have dedicated sufficient attention to prepare our unanimous opinion regarding termination of the competition, due to the reason that the candidates do not comply with the criteria and requirements that are stated in those regulatory documents that we are governed by during evaluation of their competence. Vasil, we will move on to this issue further. I'm just asking whether you agree that we have all grounds to take the decision on compliance or non-compliance today. Yeah. Yes, yes. I support the idea. Thank you. Dear colleagues, thank you again for your support and readiness to proceed to decision making. So now I can announce that we have completed evaluation of candidates in terms of compliance with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law. And now we will vote in the alphabetical order with respect to each of the three candidates that are now participating in the competitive selection. Here, I would like to remind you that the candidates who receive a rate of non-compliance with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law are considered as having failed the relevant stage, and they will cease participation in the competition. And those candidates who will get a rate compliant at this stage will be included into the final ranking list, which will be formed by the AGE by means of voting for each of the candidates who will get this compliant rate. So, dear colleagues, let's move on to voting on compliance with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law. According to the results of the comprehensive assessment of the level of professional competence and preliminary discussion of the candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Denisenko Natalia Mykolaievna, the AGE proposes to recognize her as non-compliant with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law. Colleagues, do you have any comments or observations regarding this proposal? If there are no comments and remarks, I suggest to put this proposal to a vote. Who is voting for this suggestion? Please vote. Who is for this? Thank you, dear colleagues. 6 votes for. The decision has been taken unanimously. This way, the AGE has established that candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Denisenko Natalia Mykolaievna, for the purposes of selecting candidates for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court on a competitive basis, is non-compliant with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law. Let's move on to decision-making regarding the next candidate. Based on the results of the comprehensive assessment of the level of professional competence and preliminary discussion of the candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court, Kostenko Vladislav Gennadievich, the AGE suggests to recognize him as non-compliant with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law. Colleagues, do you have any comments or observations regarding this proposal? If there are no comments and suggestions and observations, I suggest to put the voice proposal to a vote. Who is for this proposal? Please vote.
Всі 6 членів
All
дорадчої
6
групи
members of the AGE have voted for. So this way the decision has been taken unanimously. In particular, the AGE has established that candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Vladislav Gennadievich Kostenko, for the purposes of selecting candidates for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court on a competitive basis, is non-compliant with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law.
Шановні колеги,
Dear colleagues,
пропоную перейти
I
до
suggest to move on to decision-making regarding our next candidate,
а саме Солдатенко.
in particular, Soldatenko Oksana Volodymyrivna. According to results of the comprehensive assessment of the level of professional competence and preliminary discussion of the candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Soldatenko Oksana Volodymyrivna, the AGE suggests to recognize her as non-compliant with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law. Colleagues, do you have any comments or observations regarding this proposal? If there are none, I suggest to put this proposal to a vote. Who is voting for this proposal? Please vote now. Who is for this? Thank you. All 6 members of the AGE have voted for the proposal. So this way, the decision has been taken unanimously. The AGE has established that the candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Soldatenko Oksana Volodymyrivna, for the purposes of selecting candidates for the position of judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine on a competitive basis, is non-compliant with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law.
Друге питання порядку денного
The second item of the agenda has been exhausted. Dear colleagues and the public, the third item on the agenda, I suggest to sum up and briefly summarize the situation in the competitive selection announced by the Council of Judges of Ukraine. The AGE has made a decision regarding all 3 candidates for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine and has announced the resolution part of this decision. This way, all 3 candidates have been recognized as non-compliant with the criterion of the recognized level of competence in the sphere of law for the purposes of selecting candidates for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. According to the methodology, the AGE has 15 days to produce full text of reasoned decisions. According to the law of Ukraine on the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, with respect to the candidates who have received a non-compliance rate, only the resolution part of the decision of respective decisions shall be published. So we can say that the competitive selection for one vacant position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine under the quota of the Congress of Judges of Ukraine has ended due to the fact that no candidate has successfully passed the stage of assessing the level of competence in the sphere of law. I would like to remind you that according to the law of Ukraine on the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, at any stage of selection, there shall be at least 2 candidates for one vacant position. In turn, the advisory group will immediately officially inform the Council of Judges of Ukraine so that it can immediately take all necessary measures to re-announce competition. In this context, I would like to remind you that on November 7 of 2024, the advisory group of experts made a decision regarding the candidate's compliance with the criterion of high moral qualities and, based on the results of this stage, annulled the competition for one more position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine under the quota of the Congress of Judges of Ukraine was also terminated early. According to the law of Ukraine on the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, the Council of Judges of Ukraine shall immediately, but no later than within 20 days, announce in view competitive selection for this position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine as well. This will make it possible to start new competitive procedures for the selection of good candidates for the positions of judges of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine as soon as possible. Dear colleagues, we have exhausted the agenda for today. Do you have any comments or observations regarding the procedure of our official broadcast? If there are no comments, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to you for our productive work, and I would like to express my gratitude to candidates for constructive cooperation. I would also like to thank the public for their support and involvement. This is extremely important during the implementation of reforms. And of course, I would like to once again call upon all honest professional lawyers with integrity to submit their candidacies for the vacant positions of judges of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. Your participation is necessary in order to supplement the staff of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine and ensure stability of its functioning. In this context, we also expect the re-announcement of the competitive selection for 2 positions of judges of the Constitutional Court under the quota of the Congress of Judges as soon as possible. From our side, the AGE would like to assure that we will continue to urgently conduct all assessment procedures, as always, in a transparent, objective, and comprehensive way within the timeframes defined by the law and methodology. And finally, today we have December 6th. On behalf of all members, deputy members of the advisory group of experts, on behalf of the Secretariat, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the armed forces of Ukraine, which stand as a human shield in defense of Ukraine. Thanks to our army, we have the opportunity to live, work, and to make all possible efforts to build a better future for Ukraine. Thank you, dear armed forces of Ukraine. Now, I'm declaring the meeting of the AG as over. Thank you for your attention and see you soon.